Welcome to Step 2025 Podstar Pop-Up Studio, and joining us today as the fourth guest, please welcome Clara Armand-Delille, the founder at ThirdEyeMedia PR agency for startups and venture capital firms, a Web Summit speaker, startup mentor and contributor to European startups. Clara, welcome to Step 2025 and Podstar Pop-Up Studio. So what brought you to Step 2025?
So I run a PR agency for startups, scale-ups, and VCs, and I've been in touch with the organizers over several editions of Step to place some of my clients. And then off the back of that, I was invited to moderate some panels tomorrow.
So what are the themes of your panels?
So I'm moderating two panels. The first one is a main stage panel about growth. I'll be discussing the role of incubators and accelerators for early stage startups and how it helps them scale. And then the second panel is on the AI track, and it's about AI applied to logistics and the supply chain.
It's interesting. So are those areas kind of disrupted by PR somehow? Or, because, I mean, your main sort of nation, the main is the PR, right?
Yeah.
Is how do you make sure that startups scale with the help of, being visible, being at the right places at the right time?
Sure.
So how these two topics come across each other?
Well, it's a great question. And interestingly, I would say startups aren't so much disrupted, or these topics aren't so much disrupted by PR as they are fueled by PR, right? Like our role is to build a story and build a voice and narrative for early stage companies to make sure that they get known and that they connect with the right audiences.
So how to build the right narrative for somebody who is a startup? I mean, be it an early stage or be it a stage of, of a growing business where the company probably already made some kind of fundraise, etc. So how to build the right narrative?
Right. I would say for an early stage startup, you're starting from the basics. So, who are you? What do you do? What's new and different? And why should I care as an audience globally, right? So you're really starting with the basics. And a lot of the PR and consultancy job, task, and strategy sounds a lot like common sense once you said it out loud, but these fundamental questions are really actually, essential to flesh out kind of the unique voice and face of a startup at the earlier stage. When you're coming later stage, it's really about an announcement, usually a company scaling, a product feature or launch coming out, and there it's again looking at the kind of horizon of the market and what differentiates you, what makes you new, better, different against what exists to build that story.
How is PR being disrupted by, let's say, new trends, new channels, obviously new dynamics in terms of economy, technology, and the way businesses adopt different models for monetization? How is PR disrupted by that? Is there a way for each and every startup to scale with the same sort of campaign? Basically, that is the question.
I think that's a really big question. It might take a while to answer, but let me break it down into several factors. I think there's a difference between B2C and B2B, right? With B2C, you're going to lean into social channels where you can interact with your end user much more significantly and earlier. And media relations might not be as core to your positioning and interaction with your end user, right? If you're selling a lipstick, you might want to be looking great on Instagram and TikTok versus a B2B product, which might lean more on the media and on the trade media in order to interact directly with their audiences, which are other businesses. So that's one part of the question. If I zoom back and I look at all these multiple channels that exist, I do believe that the media still plays an irreplaceable and essential role in a company's positioning. And this is because media provides authoritativeness, discoverability, and differentiation, which obviously impacts SEO, in ways that no other channels can do, right? And this is because if you're a company at whatever stage and you put out your messaging on your website, on, your social channels, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever. This is you, yourself, and you talking about yourself. With the media, you get immediately third-party endorsement, and that creates authoritativeness that you cannot produce with your own channels. So this is why we encourage early-stage startups to engage with the media as early as they're ready, right? As early as possible is another question. As early as they're ready, have a voice, face, and news item figured out that they can put out there.
So, but what is the main struggle usually for the startups, and specifically for the tech startups? Because this year, STEP is a lot about technology. So, what is the main challenge that prevents them from going to media early, or from going to media massively? Let's put it this way. To simplify, not every startup goes into media?
I think a lot of them don't leverage the media because they don't understand how important it can be at those earlier stages. Because the reality is that any business that's out there technically has a brand, has a story, right? Whether it's your foundation story, or in your early days you've just raised funding, or your product is unique and disruptive, there should be a story there. But however, I would say there is such a thing as trying to go to media too early. Like if you're just a website and two people in a garage, that's premature. But once you've got your MVP ready, the most viable product, the first version of your product ready, that it's going out there, you've snapped up a client or two, or a partner or two, or an angel investor or two, then technically you should be able to convert that into a press release that should be picked up by, even if it's just early stage media. And that generates a footprint which will differentiate you from every single competitor who's at the same stage as you, in the same category, and does not have a footprint.
How do you see something like podcasting and creators economy disrupting the traditional PR campaigns and practices?
I think podcasts are a great new tool for any startup, founder, brand, company at large, simply because they really bring the voice and face of that company to life. I mean, case in point, right? You get a audio component and very frequently a video component to that. So it brings a human dimension to the personality, brand, voice of a company.
How do you think a human dimension and a human element in, let's say, any brand story help businesses, products elevate themselves, or probably not elevate, but to actually, bring in something different? How do you think? Why is it so impactful?
That's a great question, and I think actually the reality of our interactions, whether we're purchasing, engaging with, testing, trying, hanging out on a platform, all of the above, has to do with human interactions. Right, we're engaging with other humans. We're not so much buying an end product as buying the experience that was showcased by someone else's experience, right? Even if, again, going back to the example of a lipstick, there's hundreds of colors and brands out there. The reason you want to buy the Givenchy one or the YSL one is because of the experience you're going to get. And you were inspired by another human being showcasing that experience.
I have a question, like how to stand out of the crowd, because there are multiple different people who are producing very similar kind of impact with the same sort of practices. And what would be your recommendation to stand out in terms of content creation as a brand out of the crowd? This is one part.
Yes. And what's the other part?
The other part, I was going to zoom into the existing campaign that you shared with me while we were on a discovery call.
Oh,
you know, you helped the soccer NFT platform
SoRare
grow from to a pretty big, I think, amount of in terms of monetization and a profit, right?
Yeah. So great question. So thanks for the 2 tiers on that question. I think to stand out again, being bold and leveraging the media early rather than late is a good way to stand out. It's just sort of embracing all of the spectrum of the channels available, right? And not dropping the media because you think that's old school, because it's actually essential, as I was saying earlier. And then with SoRare, the soccer NFT startup, that's exactly what we did. So SoRare came to us wanting to put out a seed funding announcement of 4 million euros. And so what we were able to recommend to them, because they're in the soccer space and the gaming space, was to quickly drop a mapping of where they had presence and partners in Europe, and to immediately from the get-go push out this press release in multiple languages and markets where they did have presence. We have a theory in-house that I like to play around with that we say is YOLO, you only launch once. Right? So these guys were pushing themselves out for the first time in the media, and we thought, all right, if you have presence in, Germany, Benelux, France, Spain, Italy, the UK, let's put out this early stage press release in all these markets and languages where you have soccer fans, partners, and an opportunity to grow. And I think that was really game changing for the company to do that at such an early stage. So that was one thing. And then, we accompanied them through their growth. They partnered with numerous extremely famous athletes such as Gerard Piqué, Kylian Mbappe, Serena Williams, and we accompanied them all the way to a 680 million super round with SoftBank, which at the time was a record in French tech and a record in the blockchain space.
That's interesting. And so what do you think are those several elements that made this particular campaign a success, and can this be replicated in any other region, and how do you approach different startup cases with different campaigns?
Yeah, so we at ThirdEyeMedia, we cater to fast-growing startups, scale-ups, and VCs, and one of our massive differentiators is that we can do that multilingual and multi-market in an extremely agile way from the get-go, right? From a super early stage to a later stage. And so the type of campaign that we did for SoRare absolutely is replicable to other categories and other regions. It's just having this formula of understanding how to, where the opportunity is, mapping the geographies of where the startup or client in question has business, has opportunities, and then proactively pushing out those stories and leveraging the media to secure, visibility and growth in those regions.
How about this story itself? Did it make any difference of what the press release say?
Oh yes. So there's a localization job that happens in order to land. Let's call it a central story in several markets, right? So you obviously want to adapt everything from the story you're telling, try to build a story that's as local as possible. So in the case of SoRare, we were highlighting the local partners in Germany for the German market, in France for the French market, and so forth and so on. And then also you'll adapt your media strategy. So some countries, operate better with sort of embargoes. You can trust the media more to honor an embargo. Other countries don't do embargoes that much. You'll distribute the press release and then you'll do follow-ups. In one market, maybe the story's a little more touchy, so you're going to maybe negotiate an exclusive with one reporter so that you can sort of explain the story full and through to him, have that reporter land the story, and then usually the rest of the media will iterate on the angle that was taken by the person who broke the news.
So what would you what would you say the ThirdEyeMedia, along with your capability as someone who's leading this company, what do you think you're bringing into the Middle Eastern region? So what kind of practices do you think will fly here with the startups?
So right now, the way we operate is that our business is kind of going in multiple directions. We'll have, U.S. companies that are scaling into Europe that will, find it a dream to work with someone like ThirdEyeMedia, where, we already are very familiar with Silicon Valley best practices. I mean, I was Google trained, I worked for Accel before. So we're a wonderful partner to sort of land stories in non-English markets for Americans. And then the other scenario will be European startups with a regional footprint where we do multilingual work for them. We also have sometimes stories in the other direction. So we'll have Europeans that need to land their brand and story in the US or even in Latin America. That's something we've done a lot. The way I see things unfolding in the Middle East is we've got partners here in the UAE, so we can already cater for any European or American startup in the region. And also hopefully engage with some local players who need coverage in English or in other of our markets. So that's also a really solid scenario.
One of the conversations that we're raising during STEP Conference 2025 is how AI is disrupting your business. And does it disrupt your business specifically? And the way you used to work with your clients and the way you have to work with your clients now. AI.
Right. I think AI is a wonderful tool in so many industries, and I think in PR and comms, it's also one of them. I would say it fuels our work. It multiplies our ability to do our job really well when it comes to like research and sort of deep searching into a sector and a category. When we're looking to pull together some market stats for a press release, etc. So for us, it's really kind of an enhancer of our job, yeah, I mean, it helps us. You know, we have a very clear formula on how to write a good press release that speaks to the media. It needs to be neutral and factual in tone. And there's a couple of things that need to be in there. Like, for example, with a funding release, I almost have this like checklist by heart that I go through, which is how much did you raise, from who, why did you choose these investors, what are you using the funds for? Is it for market expansion, hiring, product launches? If so, you know, explain. Who's your super user? What growth metrics do you measure? By how much have they been growing, et cetera, that need to go in there, right? And we bake that in. So with AI that can help us whip together like some messaging around some of these key points, it's basically like it can't replace us, but it can help us multiply and enhance the way we work.
So what is the way to scale a successful PR business nowadays? I mean, speaking about AI, definitely. And considering PR has always been there, it's been obviously disrupted by the new channels, so you have to adopt, etc. But how to scale the PR business nowadays, especially in the regions like UAE, what helps you? What do you think is the way forward for a PR agency like yours?
Sure. Great question. So for us, we're definitely a boutique PR agency, and I want it to stay that way, that it feels very tailored, personable, direct channel with ThirdEyeMedia. The way we've scaled and how we've picked up this agile ability to absorb clients and help them at the pace that's needed in the tech sector has been by partnering with local partners. So, for example, right now, in fact, we have a piece of news going out in 8 markets and 7 languages in about 2 hours. And we're doing this because we've got partners across Europe and the US that we work with and can help us absorb the work. So that's how we do it. And I think in the UAE, it'll be the same formula. I've already got partners here that we can kind of like pull in on demand and get the job done really quickly and in the best way possible. Because by relying on these local partners that have the contacts, understand the media landscape, and understand how to localize a story for their audiences, it's a winning formula.
How do you see something like a long-form content creation, like podcasting or interviews, complementing the traditional PR practices?
In the best way. I think that long-form content is extremely helpful and complementary to the media. The way we use it, and we advise our clients to use it, is to chop that down into snippets and sound bites that they can then drip feed at leisure on their channels. So that enables you to really build a campaign and reiterate your messages over time by using the long-form content. And the other thing that's great is that usually this long-form content will be done in partnership. Like, for example, in this case, we're talking with Podster, so we get a whole bunch of people and brands to tag that can help amplify the message and visibility.
For sure. And also, I think the way the media and the content creation business works nowadays specifically is like you don't know exactly what kind of opportunities you are chasing. They will come in the way, probably, that you do not really know for sure yet. Yeah. But they will come in the way that you can probably scale either straightforward or, contextually?
100%. And I feel like a lot of the work that we get at ThirdEyeMedia is a combination of word of mouth and referrals from happy clients and good hashtags,
Yeah. Do hashtags still work?
They do. I mean, I have a very French last name, and we hashtag French tech, and I feel like a lot of our business comes from there as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it LinkedIn or which medium are you talking?
LinkedIn and Instagram mostly is where we're active. Yeah.
So hashtags is
Hashtags
still
work.
yeah,
I mean,
still
they're
a
a little
thing.
more saturated than 10 years ago, but they definitely work.
Okay, how do you search for the right hashtags nowadays?
I think people search for us. We just put our hashtags out, but we use industry-specific hashtags, that pertain to press, early stage, medium stage, startup growth, and then the different regions and markets that we operate in or that we're quite busy in.
So what do you enjoy the most sort of in the environment you're operating nowadays?
I think I just love my job. I find it is so creative. We're working with, brand new cutting edge products and the people behind them, which is so fun, And then for me, as a bit of a polyglot, I really enjoy working across multiple markets and languages. I find myself brushing up my few words of Arabic since I've been here.
Oh,
so yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Arabic sounds absolutely amazing, and Arabic content is actually predicted to grow dramatically. So it is definitely a language to learn for
sure.
If you were to sort of to intersect the business that you're doing now with any other niche, what would it be? Like, for example, if you could combine whatever you're doing now with something that makes you happy as a person,
right.
What would it be?
I am a very fervent yogi. I've been practicing yoga and I'm teacher trained. So I've been doing that for 15 years. I also do gymnastics and I dance. So I would definitely blend this know-how with something to do with the wellness business and movement. I find movement very healing. Movement and breath, very healing. So, and in fact, I might gravitate towards that down the line. Who knows?
Because mindfulness and wellness is one of the areas that also startups and founders are encouraged to look into very attentively in the coming years, right?
For sure. We do see an increasing amount of coaches at all different levels, people coaching CEOs when it comes to strategy or becoming a better leader / manager of the teams. And then also endeavors around work-life balance and employee happiness, etc. So there are different points of entries and numerous layers to look at coaching like that. And the reality is that I look at myself as a coach as well. I mean, I'm coaching founders and CEOs on, how to position themselves out there, right? So I feel like this could easily blend into bringing some wellness element to that as well as a next step.
Why do you think wellness could be an important factor in if you're a founder of a startup specifically?
So I think in the startup world we have a double layer of kind of restlessness. And because we're working in tech and the pace of tech is insane. And then the other one is because we're addressing these multiple channels, right? There's a culture of immediacy that brings a bit of a frenzy energetically to the area that we work with and in. So I think for that reason, cultivating, activities that can ground and allow us to raise our awareness of the present moment, slow down, deepen the breath, are all, essential to the job. And it's been proven here and there and time again that it enhances our cognitive abilities. So it's not like we need to preach. Hopefully, most of these people are already converted.
Yeah. I get it. No, it is definitely a very, very promising area to evolve into. And I wish you a very insightful panels tomorrow.
Thank you.
I wish you to sort of enjoy them, get new connections, and thank you so much for your insights about PR and scaling, your business if you're a founder or a startup. And all the best of luck with the PR campaigns here in the UAE and beyond.
For sure. Thank you so much, Lara. It's been great chatting with you.